Let's first of all talk to expert Dr Simon Boxall. He's an oceanographer at the University of Southampton. Good morning to you, Simon.
Good morning, Julia.
There's no doubt at all this story has absolutely gripped the world, has it not? As soon as we heard about it, the Titanic, of course, itself, that wreck. You know, iconic, and then this sub going missing. I think for so many people, you know, this is madness. It's the stuff of their nightmares, being trapped in a tiny little, 21-foot box, 4 other people, oxygen running out under the ocean. I mean, this is a Hollywood disaster movie. What we are hoping, the Coast Guard is hoping, what all the people involved in that search, and no doubt, of course, the families of these 5 men are hoping that this will end with a miraculous rescue and survival of these 5 men. As an expert in this field, in how the oceans actually operate, a cruel mistress, many would say, what are your hopes?
They are slim, but we can't give up hope. And I think, this magic hour of 12:08 today that's being sort of banded about, it's got to be more flexible than that, because we can't pinpoint it to that precision. All we know is that there's sufficient oxygen on board to last to sometime today. Now, they've made it clear already, as far as they're concerned, this will continue to be a search and rescue operation, probably for the next 2 days. We should never give up hope. In some ways, the hope is that their sort of bodies are beginning to sort of, I won't say it was the word shut down, but sort of started to go into sort of almost hibernation mode, because it's quite cold down there. And that means the oxygen levels will be maintained for longer. They're not using oxygen.
And that's it. If everyone was panicking, that would use oxygen levels up sooner.
Absolutely.
If they were, as is very likely, it's very possible they could already be unconscious. They'll be using less conscious. And I mean, let's talk about the conditions down there, because look, if the sub has had a breach of the hull, they were long gone, sadly.
It's a recovery rather than a rescue.
I mean, it was almost 400 atmospheres effective pressure. I mean, you haven't got a chance of survival at that point. But if it's
sub-second,
if it's a loss of power, if it's a loss of communication, that is one thing, and then they may still have some power down there. If there's a loss of power, that is more serious, and particularly, but you say it's not just that oxygen it could be running out. There are big concerns about hypothermia, because temperatures down there just above freezing. Not able to move in these very cramped conditions. I mean, I couldn't sit. I was saying yesterday on the show, I couldn't sit cross-legged for 8 hours. Even in the studio, I would have cramp. And five regular-sized guys in that tiny cramped condition must be horrific. But it is very likely. I mean, whatever food they had on board will be long gone. Water, you can't survive more than 3 days without water, even with limited water supplies. It is very likely that those men are already unconscious.
It is, but we can't say for certain. And I think, the rescuers aren't giving up hope yet. And rightly so, they're focusing as much effort as possible to try and find the submersible. I think everyone woke up this morning in the hope that there'd be some good news.
Yeah, it's the first thing I did. Check the computer. Maybe they'd found the sub. Yeah.
But the same way as I wake up on a Thursday morning hoping I won the lottery last night. And I think, I hate to say it, but it's that sort of chance almost.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Look, we talk about these banging noises that this plane, this Canadian Coast Guard plane, heard overhead every 30 minutes. They've been analysing it. They really don't seem to be able to work out whether it is coming from the sub. Certainly some of the experts who spoke to yesterday say it seems pretty unlikely to them that it would have been. And it wouldn't be a noise every 30 minutes. It would be, you'd make an SOS signal, every few minutes if they were able to. But that's even if they were able to with a carbon fibre hull.
I mean, you've got to bear in mind that sound travels through the water very, very well. And so the people down there, particularly the French expert down there, will know how to communicate to the surface and use sound. You can't use radios, you can't use the normal methods we use on land, which makes it very, very difficult. Also, bear in mind that the planes themselves aren't hearing it. What they're doing is they're dropping sonar buoys into the water, and those sonar buoys are then relaying the noises to the aircraft and to land stations. Now, those noises have been analysed, are being analysed by experts both in the US Navy. They do a lot of work on underwater sound for things like anti-submarine warfare, but also people at Woods Hole Institute in Massachusetts, one of the top institutes worldwide for oceanography. So they are throwing all the experts they have at it, try and analyse the sounds. They're trying to dismiss alternative sources. And the problem, of course, is that you've suddenly got this huge collection of ships and equipment in this area, all generating sounds of different sorts.
Yeah.
So,
That's the trouble. The ocean makes a lot of sounds. We know the Titanic wreck does. It is huge heaving hull, and and all of that. That doesn't make it very difficult. Now, overnight, a French ship, the Atalante, carrying the only underwater vehicle capable of rescuing the Titan sub, reached the site. It was due around midnight. It carries this vehicle called the Victor 6000, which is capable of remotely reaching depths of 20,000 feet, but crucially also has the sort of grabbers that could be used. Because this is the issue, isn't it? It's A, finding the sub. That's the biggest issue right now, the needle in the a moving haystack in the dark. And B, once you've located the sub, bringing it to the surface, because there's no way of sort of latching on, opening, and getting the men out into a sub or underneath. They have to remove the sub and bring it up to the surface again, if they can find it. This, it appears to be the only vehicle. They've got it there. So, as you say, they are treating this as a rescue mission, not just as we're going to find the sub. They want to actually rescue. But when we look at the timings for this, even if all of this is possible, yeah, and of course we know, of course the air may well run out 2 hours later or a day later if we're lucky. But let's just say that 12:08, the time given by the Coast Guard, is the accurate time and is roughly where we are. The time it would take to actually make sure that Victor 6000 vehicle got down to the sub, was able to latch on, grab hold of it somehow, maybe it's stuck somewhere, and pull it to the surf, the actual time to get back up those 12,500 feet. What sort of time frame are we looking at for that?
We're looking, I mean, first of all, it's worth saying that the Victor 6000 isn't the only one. We have one in the UK, but it's nowhere near the area. People need to be aware that it's very difficult to get equipment to site. And it happened to be...
We're 400 miles from the coast,
Precisely, and it happened to be very fortunately that the French system was within the region, so they went straight there. Our system, I think, at the moment is somewhere down in the South Atlantic, which you're days away. So the French system is ideal. There's another American one actually on site as well. So they have the equipment to recover the submersible if they can find it. And what they would do is they'd send the submersible down. There's a ship with a huge cable on board. They would try and attach the cable to the submarine, and then they can haul it up. There's a lot of ifs there. If they find it, if it's free already, so in other words, we're assuming it hasn't got snared on netting, discarded netting from fishing. It could have been snared on part of a wreck down there. There are so many ifs. If they find it, if it's free, then they can get it to the surface. But even then, it takes a couple of hours to get the ROV. This has got to travel down through the ocean. It's got to sort of locate the wreck, having located it using sonar, and then they've got to then connect a cable to it. This is not a quick operation.
No.
Having said that, without the ROVs in place, then this would be a non-starter anyway. It would be...
But they're working on the basis these men are still alive, and they're going to continue to work on that basis until all possible hope is gone. I mean, and I certainly agree with the Coast Guard. We have to. We have to have hope. That's what we do. Yeah. And there can be miracles, and that is what we are all praying for. Certainly, it is an extraordinary story. I think the plight of these men, their families, friends, it is just extraordinary. Can I ask you just one final question to Simon Boxall, though? Lots of people say that they're adventurers. A lot of these men, they were adventurers. They're experienced. The French sub-pilot Paul Henry, done this many times. Would you dream of ever getting, even before this, would you have dreamt of ever getting into this 21-foot sub to go down to the Titanic in those conditions with the safety mechanisms that you were aware of?
Absolutely not.
That's the thing, and I think that's what...
I've been in this business for over 40 years. I have been down in a thing called a gym suit, which goes down to about 100 meters. That was terrifying enough.
Yeah.
We don't need to. I mean, the ROV that's there now, that's not the only one in the world. There are quite a few of them. So the UK has one as well, which is also very advanced. It's just nowhere near the region at the moment to help. And I think, we can do more with those than we can do with a submersible.
Indeed. Dr Simon Boxall, we'll have to leave it there. I so appreciate your time and expertise. Oceanographer at the University of Southampton. Thank you very much.